Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. This week, Liz Picarazzi tells Jay Goltz and William Vanderbloemen that she's had a couple of big breakthroughs. For Liz, it's been a challenging few years dealing with the tariffs while also trying to break into a promising new market. Despite the advice of some very smart people who encouraged her to conquer her first market, urban areas plagued by rats, before expanding into additional markets, Liz has invested a lot of time and energy trying to position Citibin to serve towns, parks, and resorts that need trash bins strong enough to withstand bears. For that investment to pay off, however, Liz would have to outsmart her nemesis, an especially ferocious competitor that goes by the name of Seeley. Plus, Jay talks about the plight of small retailers trying to survive while their industry collapses around them. And William tells us how he's trying to keep up in the AI arms race between employers and employees. Even in good times, owning and running a business can be a lonely pursuit. Our hope is that these weekly conversations will let owners know they are not alone in facing challenges. In fact, that's the whole idea behind the 21 Hats community, engaging with other owners to get the kinds of insights only another owner can offer. If you're interested in learning more, you can sign up for a free trial of the Morning Report newsletter, which highlights the most important news of the day for business owners and shows how other owners are confronting challenges and seizing opportunities. Just search the 21 Hats Morning Report to subscribe. You might also try our monthly Zoom mastermind, where owners from around the country gather to compare notes. It's a lot like this podcast, except you get to be part of the conversation. Shoot me an email at lauren@21hats.com to get more information. Joining me this week on the podcast are regulars Jay Goltz, CEO of the Goltz Group, whose companies in Chicago include a picture frame business, artist frame service, and a home furnishing store, Jason Home. Liz Picarazzi, who is CEO of Citibin, which makes trash enclosures and package bins and is based in Brooklyn, New York. And William Vanderbloemen, CEO of Vanderbloemen Search Group, a Houston-based recruiting firm that works with churches and other faith-based organizations. The episode is titled, "It's a Bear Market for Citibin." Welcome, Jay, Liz, and William. It's great to have you all here. I want to start with you, Liz. I gather you've taken another crack at getting your trash enclosures certified as bear-proof. Before you tell us what's going on, can you remind us what this entails and what happened the last time you tried?
Sure, I'm happy to. So we'll give a little bit more context with sort of the enclosures. So Citibin trash enclosures have always primarily been to keep rats out. So New York City rats, that's what we're built for. We've been known that way. And for several years, we were getting requests from people in mountain areas where bears are an issue if we had a bear-resistant version of our Citibin. And so for a few years, we said no, but we got enough requests that we realized this is something we should really look into. Why don't we basically trick out and make a bear-resistant version? It's made out of steel instead of out of aluminum. It has all the bear-relevant hardware that you may think of if you go to a national park and you use sort of a paddle handle latch to open the doors. So we made all those modifications, and part of the reason we did it was that we wanted to get a certificate from the IGBC, which is the Inner Grizzly Bear Committee. You guys can laugh.
Is it made up of grizzly bears?
No, it's made out of some really lovely people, actually, but they weren't easy on us. We went through all of the modifications to our product so that it met the qualification for IGBC. And then we set out to get it tested to be certified. So there's a testing lab for IGBC in East Yellowstone, Montana. And that is where they do product testing for all different types of bear-resistant products, trash cans, coolers, trash enclosures. And so we started our testing in 2023 and failed. Very surprising. I don't like that. We failed.
Why did you fail?
So it had to do with the mounting mechanism And I don't want to go into great detail, but it sort of had to do with alignment of expectations about how the product would be mounted. And it ended up not being mounted at all. And so the bear pushed it over in 4 minutes. 4 minutes out of basically a 6-hour test with revolving bears. Every 45 minutes, new bears come in and test the product. So that was 2023. We made a bunch of revisions, went in there in 2024, last summer. And the bear legitimately got through. The bin was totally mounted, and it got in the front door. So we videotaped the whole thing.
How did it get in?
So basically, if you've ever seen bear testing, you'll see that they perform CPR on whatever vessel they're trying to get into. So they're basically just repeatedly pushing it over and over and over. The other thing they do is that the food, it's usually sardines and peanut butter, honey, dog biscuits. That's all rubbed all over the exterior, particularly in the hinges and around all the hardware, door edges. So they're smelling that food, and that's incredibly motivating. So they're trying to get in there, and they can detect the weak points. The good thing about testing, I will admit, is that it really shows you where the weak areas are to improve it. There's no way I would have known that door wasn't bear resistant without getting a grizzly bear to test it. So for the sake of human beings and the sake of the bears, it's really good that we knew that, because then we looked at the bin after the 2024 test and determined a few key areas where we wanted to make improvements. So that's the background going into 2025.
Do you pay the grizzly bears, or are you just exploiting their free labor?
We pay for a certification
Excellent.
test. And, these bears are somewhat lucky because they would have been euthanized. There are only about 10 bears at the center, and that is over the years. So these are bears that all became habituated to human food and therefore, became not safe to themselves or humans. Because they would repeatedly go back to the same food sources. And that can become dangerous, and many, many bears every year are euthanized because of that. So we're not paying the bears, but the bears basically have a lifetime home.
You just saved their lives. You are really going right to heaven. No question about it.
Okay, so should I move on? 2025.
Yeah, tell us.
So 2025, we take a year to make the changes. We set the date up, and we went to East Yellowstone mid-July to test not one, but 2 products, because you can test them at the same time, like different days. And the same bear that got into the bin the first 2 tests, her name is Seeley. She was the first bear in the lineup. And there's a lineup of an entire day of bear tests with 6 different bears testing throughout the day in shifts of 45 minutes. This bear, Seeley, I found out was going to be the first one. And I found that out before I went to bed the night before the test. And I did not sleep because I have seen this bear, in slow motion, because we videotape it, get in there. She's very ferocious. She's very motivated. And also she has a lot of experience touching and smelling and being all around this bin. So she's got 2 years of familiarity going into it. So this bear and her sister, Condi, come out, and they're both really aggressive with the bins at first. But soon after, they started to give up, and they started to go swimming. They were trying to knock over trees. They were playing with each other, obviously looking for food around the habitat and other spaces where the people in the habitat center leave the food. So long story short, the 2 module passed after multiple rounds. So we were totally elated, not entirely surprised. But we were like, wow, this took over 3 years of work. We've passed. Then the next day was the next product that we were going to test. And that was we kind of added this last minute, but basically it's a smaller version of the one we were testing. And that one passed. So we passed not one, but 2 products in this session, and we got our official certification last Thursday.
And the certification says exactly what?
It says it's certified by the IGBC as bear resistant, and that is per the test protocol, that we followed.
Congratulations.
Wait, did you get a certificate that's suitable for framing?
I did, Jay. I
Wow.
really did. That was exciting. And I'm going to have to send that to you.
What about a T-shirt? Did you get a T-shirt with the picture of the bear on it or anything? Can we get some of those?
I already have basically like stationery and towels and pins with this bear Seeley. They have all different gear in their gift shop for every bear. And because she was the fiercest competitor that I was most concerned about, like I have a soft spot in my heart for her now because she failed. And I know how that feels from the previous 2 years.
Do we get to vote now on whether you made this entire story up? Because it's quite entertaining, and I feel like I'm on NPR or something, and we're supposed to decide truth or fiction. It's a great story.
Thank you.
So what happens now, Liz? What does it mean that you got certification?
Okay, so a number of things. First off, I can sell my bear-resistant bins as IGBC certified, which is really important. There's not that many players in the field, and therefore it's a big deal for us as a brand to get into the official mix because we appeal to towns, cities, resorts that have bear problems. And some of them, we have sold into some that did not require the IGBC certification. But for instance, the town of Aspen in Colorado, we had sold some in there and they basically were like, we love these, but you have to be IGBC certified to sell anymore. So we basically already have a buildup of people who want to buy them, but we needed to wait for the IGBC certification. So it's a very important marketing tool, but it also is important for any sort of town that has a regulation for an IGBC certified container, and there's many of them, as well as national parks. So national parks requires that I'm IGBC certified plus made in the USA. And that is another part of the bear story.
I would like to nominate Liz for the 21 Hats Entrepreneur of the Year Award that gets a certificate and a T-shirt because that is an incredible journey you've gone on, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dave.
No kidding.
Thank you, guys.
No kidding.
I feel like a loser now. What have I been doing for the last year? I feel like a complete loser. You're out there going and getting bears, tricking bears, and getting the whole thing, and I've just been sitting here doing regular stuff.
Well, when you were my age, you would have been doing all this too. You're just a little bit older.
Oh, so now I'm just old. Okay. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. I accept that. I've lost my edge, you're telling me.
Liz, I hope you signed Seeley to some kind of influencer contract or endorsement contract.
I would love to. We are making an incredible video that, like, when you ask me, Lauren, what's next? It's not just this ability to sell to customers that we know want to buy, but it's my opportunity to do marketing, which I love, and new creative videos, launch video, everything revolving around bears with the focus on Seeley. So I have a video producer that I've been working on, and he's just come up with this amazing, amazing video, basically showing these bears performing CPR on my product over 3 years. And it's almost done almost like a home improvement show with the scoring in the background of, sort of uncertainty and then victory at the end. So I'm really happy to be in that role of sort of creating new marketing and messaging, because at this point, I'm the one who really knows what I want and what I think the market wants. And sometimes if you've done marketing over the years and you don't have that blank slate, you're sort of limited. So this is sort of a canvas of sorts for me. And I'm feeling very stimulated by that.
Do you have inventory of these products to sell, or were you waiting until you got certification to ramp up production?
The latter. We have always, with the bear bins that we've sold, I think we have like 12 or 14 clients. Those have always been like custom orders with our factory. We didn't do a full tooling with them yet. And we also had a lot of iteration. So the plan is to put a purchase order in September for our first order. It'll be a smallish order. And part of the reason it's going to be smallish is that it's not going to be going to Asia. It's going to be going to the US.
Whoa. You found somebody to make them domestically?
I did. And this has been in the works for about 3 or 4 months now. I didn't want to share so openly about it because I didn't know if it was going to work, but it is looking like it's going to work. And it may turn out that our supplier for bear will be entirely in the US.
Wow.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Can you tell us any more about who's going to be doing the fabrication?
I don't want to go into great detail, but I do have 2 suppliers. One of them is in the Midwest and one of them is on the West Coast.
Wait, is one of them in Green Bay, Wisconsin? Because Green Bay hates the Bears. That's a little Chicago joke.
Yeah, but I'm a Scotty, so my Packers are always going to be in my heart.
All right, because that would be great if that's where they were located.
So with production, we are actually in the process of getting some sampling done with 2 different factories. And we've already placed a PO with one of them. It's not for bear, it's for a different product to sort of as a test. But I've had this sort of in the background. We're sort of taking it slow, but all signs are showing at this point that we're going to be able to manufacture the bear bin in the US.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is amazing. Is this going to be possible in part because you can charge more for the bear proof and it'll be a more profitable product line for you?
Yeah, it's partly because of that, but it's partly that it's going to open up my market size dramatically. With the Made in the USA, I couldn't really even go after a lot of government contracts if I didn't have that. So that's really motivating. Even though the price is higher, it is worth it because then we also have a much shorter supply chain. So with the West Coast factory, we would be able to keep inventory of bear than on the West Coast, which is primarily where our customers are. So that's another sort of supply chain, just great things that it's just a big part of it.
The fact is, rats are a more subtle problem. You don't necessarily know you have rats, but when the bear goes and rips open your garbage can, you come out, you got a huge problem. So I can totally see where they'd be more anxious to go spend the money on it because they come out and what do they do? The garbage can's been ripped apart. I mean, that's a huge problem.
The food that we put out for animals, rats eat it and it's human beings' fault. But bears eat it too, and it's human beings' fault. But we think they're cute, and we don't always think about the impact on even the community. If you're not taking care of a problem with a bear coming into your neighborhood, that affects everybody else. And that's part of the reason why some of these towns are mandating the bear enclosures, because the amount of human-bear contact is increasing every year.
Are there competitive products trying to solve that same problem?
There are. There's a couple. There's one major player that if you go into most national parks, you're going to see a certain type of enclosure that has the paddle handles where you push your hand in and push a lever and the door opens. That's a standard bear resistant enclosure. They're really big, and that's another thing that I'm sort of exciting about is that there aren't that many players. And if I were a government buyer, I would really like to have 2, 3, 4 options. And right now, I would guess that this competitor probably owns about 90% of the market. Then I'm going to go eat their lunch.
Like a bear.
Yeah.
Liz, through the years, we've talked about this at various points, and I know you've gotten some advice, maybe on the podcast, as well as off the podcast, that you shouldn't be diverting your focus from your main business, that there's plenty of business for you in New York City and other urban areas for your rat-proof enclosures. You should go after that market, satisfy that, and then think about expanding in other ways. You obviously didn't take that advice. How are you thinking about that today?
I'm glad that I didn't take their advice because I passed the test. You know, if I had to put another year of time and resources into this, if we had failed in July, I definitely would have thought, okay, this is a suck on your time. We've been actually working to develop that market for over 3 years now, even before we started the testing. So we have long lead lists. We're going to be doing a lot of marketing. We're going to be meeting with towns that have already expressed an interest. So I don't feel like I'm chasing after something where I have a solution and there's not enough of a need. There's a very clear need with very few solutions. And I want to be a part of that. I don't want to wait for someone else to come in. And there are an adaptation of our product to make it bear resistant, but it still is a modification of my product. And that's what I've been able to do with everything is modular. You know, you can have a planter, you can have a package locker, you can have it bear proof, you can have it sanitation worker hefty. It's not like it's a whole new business. It is a new product line. And yes, it is a different customer, but I have really spent a lot of time wrapping my head around who is the customer, what do they need, and how do I get through to them? So I'm not starting from like zero. I've got this time in. And I really am, at this point, it's sort of executing.
Have you considered doing another name? Because Citibin, while it works great for, rat enclosures, if you were starting from scratch and just came up with this bear thing, I think you'd probably have a different name that somehow...
I do, Jay.
Good.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to share it here.
Wow.
Excellent.
I don't know when exactly this is going to be published, but the name of the bear-resistant Citibin is the Grizzbin.
Okay.
Nice.
The Grizzbin by Citibin. So it has its own separate product name, but it's underneath the umbrella. And we wanted to keep the same convention of having the word bin in the name.
You have the URL?
I do. And I also have an Instagram profile that I haven't even started populating yet. So that's another sort of blank slate. Instead of feeling like, oh my God, I don't have anything there, I build it.
You got a tagline like not endorsed by bears?
or by Seeley.
Yeah. Seeley gave up. Maybe something about bears give up with the Grizzbin. Like when I was watching the test and I saw the bears give up and walk away and like go swimming, I saw that they were giving up, and that really was a sign that is what they do when they no longer have a reliable food source.
Well, when you decided to keep pursuing this a couple of years ago, you didn't really know that the tariffs were coming, and you couldn't have known that this would unlock domestic manufacturing for you. It just seems like this has paid off in ways that you couldn't even have anticipated back then.
I have mixed feelings about that because you are right. The tariffs have stimulated me to chart different courses or diversify my supply chain. A lot of smart people I know, like early in talking about this, they immediately understand that Trump's policies have transformed my business in a way that they feel uncomfortable with. Not like, oh, damn it, Liz, you're proving him wrong, but a little bit of disappointment that the mandate has led to this thing, the ability to manufacture here. So I don't really know how to explain it, but sometimes, and I guess this is super personal, which I know, Lauren, you like, is that I don't necessarily want people to know that it was this bear thing and the tariff thing that enabled me to come to the U.S. But it's true.
Well, the world works in funny ways sometimes.
That's a whole new version of entrepreneur guilt.
It is.
I hear what you're saying, because there's other people that are not going to be able to find a solution like that, and it worked out for you. But I hear your point that you don't want to be an advertisement for, oh, look, the tariffs are a good thing. Look how it helped me, because some people are going to have a much harder time with this because, there was a certain amount of luck involved that, bears are the whole thing.
Yeah. And then the other thing to put this into context, which is really important, is that I don't plan on moving everything away from Asia just because of this. I plan on keeping probably a good 50 to 75% of my production in Vietnam because they're doing a great job, even with the tariff. I know the Trump stuff is just temporary. It may be 3 years for me, But if this whole thing has taught me I need to have diversification of my supply chain. And if I need to have factory in China, Vietnam, West Coast, Midwest, 4 different factors ready to produce, that makes me feel safer. Planning is difficult because you're dealing with 4 different factories. But just because this thing with Bayer has passed and that we're going to manufacture that in the US, that's probably not even 5% of my sales. So it's not like, oh, Victoria, she's moving things to the US. I'm moving like 5% of my production to the US for now.
You could probably instantly double that in marketing swagger if you just said, our US-made products are peacefully convincing Canadian bears who are here illegally to go home.
Oh my God. That's the best. Can I write that down and use it?
Absolutely.
Wait, but maybe the bear is Russian?
Well, they're self-deporting they're self-deporting.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, peacefully solving the immigration crisis one bear at a time.
So I think the entrepreneur lesson from this is what we all have to do what you can. You kept moving along, and we have to deal with things, and you do what you can, and sometimes you can find a solution, and good for you. You worked it out.
Well, and, I've gotten advice over the years to Lauren pointing out to focus more. A number of people told me that. Carrie Smith told me that a few years ago when I wanted to expand nationwide. And our own Paul Downs told me that way before 21 Hats, when I knew him like 10 years ago, when I was talking about shifting from custom Citibins to prefabricated kits. And he too was sort of like, focus on what you're good before you move ahead. And in both cases, with both of those people, I listened to their advice, but I proceeded and moved ahead with what my plan was.
Okay, I never told you that because I think that whole thing, stick to the knitting. Okay, sometimes that makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I think any kind of blanket advice to an entrepreneur, stick to what you're good at, that might be really bad advice because maybe you stumbled into something that was actually better than what you started with. So I wasn't one of those people.
Although, as you say, that advice has been good advice for a lot of people.
For sure. Sometimes it is, for sure. Like me opening up a pizza place, probably not a good idea.
You're the one who brought it up a couple of episodes ago.
I've already talked myself out of it.
Okay. Liz, I just want to get back to one thing. You said that the market for the bear enclosures would be 5%. I assume that's the first year, and I'm guessing that you think that down the line it could be a much larger percentage of your sales, correct?
Yes.
But correct me if I'm wrong. If you look at the market, there are far more people in the United States that have problems with rats than have problems with bears.
Well, there are more rats than bears.
Way more rats. That's the point. Millions
more
times
rats than
more.
People.
Right. So and there's more cities. The point is you started in Yellowstone Park. Okay, that's the obvious place. There aren't that many. I'm sure that the rat problem is a much bigger problem. So
was it Edison or Ford or one of the guys in that time I heard said, if you want to eat with the classes, you have to feed the masses. So rat problem is probably going to carry the business more than the bear problem.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think there's the market size is limited because of that reason. There's less of a bear issue than there is of a rat issue. But within the category of bear, there is such a concentration with this one player that for me, that is a market size. Because essentially I'm bringing myself in there as a second, third option to what they already have. And so they're somewhat self-selecting.
Well, you personally have a problem now in that it's one thing to have rats pissed at you, but it's another thing to have bears pissed at you because they're much bigger. And
that's why she lives in Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of them you act big and run toward, and others you run away. I mean, it's a whole...
There
what
is.
do you do?
Got to know which is which.
Now, I will say, I am thinking product funnel for you. Those people who have bear problems probably own companies that need to hear about the original business.
Oh, so you're saying that somebody who buys the bear product may
probably
very
owns
well
businesses and properties, maybe rental properties, maybe
have a need for the rat product.
Uh-huh.
Now, that's interesting because I'm not sure if somebody has a bear problem, I assume they're not in a dense population. That's an interesting question. How much overlap, how many people in this United States have a problem with both bears getting into their garbage and rats. That's interesting because like New York obviously doesn't have any bear problems. And then the question is, are there places that get both?
But your CEOs have a home in Aspen with bear problems.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing a lot of press. And I think whenever we get good media, the new customer type will come out of the woodworks. And then we're like, oh, HOAs. Oh, this HOA has a problem with bears in, Denver, or you just never know. I mean, this is something I expect to get some pretty good press on because it's about bears. And I can talk about rats and bears. And I think, Lauren, wouldn't you agree? Most reporters would like to write about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and there are all kinds of ways to have fun with it. Sure. But, ultimately it's the success of the business that will drive those stories. All right, Jay, I don't quite know how to do this transition, but you and I have been talking recently about your business and the picture framing industry, and I'm sorry to say it's not as happy or entertaining a story as the one Liz just presented us with.
No, I'll tell you what it's a story of. It's a story of, to Liz's point, I'm old, and I've been in this industry I've been framing pictures, literally, using the word properly, for 50 years, since I was, a teenager. And things have changed in 50 years. And when I got into it, and when I graduated college, I'm a middle baby boomer. The baby boomers were getting out of college, traveling, buying posters, and they drove the framing industry. And the framing industry grew dramatically over the next 30 years. And then you get to 2000, and all of a sudden, the baby boomers, the oldest ones, are in their 50s, and slowly but surely, they stop framing pictures, and their kids are not framing pictures. And then the TV comes out to go on walls. That took some market share. And then you get some big chain stores got into it. So the point is, in 2000, there were about 25,000 frame shops in America. Now there's 6,000. With that being said, framing's not going away.
But you've suggested to me that the industry in some ways is going through a transition.
Yeah, when you go from 25,000 frame shops down to 6, you start to have issues. So the issues now are the suppliers are consolidating, and there's less suppliers. There's only one mapboard company now. There used to be two. That one bought the other one. And there was 2 or 3 different metal frame companies. Now there's only one. So the industry has shrunk. And again, I don't think, I still do a lot of business framing pictures, and people love framing pictures, and they want framing, not a huge part of the population, but whatever, 2, 3, 4% of people still want pictures framed. But you can't help but notice the industry has shrunk. For instance, there used to be like half a dozen trade shows every year for picture framing, and now there's one. So,
do people still go to the trade show?
Yeah, but even at its peak, only probably 15-20% of framers go to a trade show, which I think is ridiculous. I think everybody should go to their national trade show. I'm buddies with, they're the business editor of Picture Frame Magazine. I'm tight with the people that run the magazine, and they're my age, and like they're going to eventually, retire, and I'm going to, So it's just interesting watching where it's going to end up. And there are some industries, like I went to get a lawnmower for somebody. The lawnmower places are going out of business because lawnmowers are now electric. They don't need to be repaired. So like, poof. I don't know that there's going to be any lawnmower repair places left. They're almost down to nothing as it is. So it begs the question, there's still a need for framing out there. But the industry has shrunk. Now, is that a problem, or is it just right sizing? Okay, maybe it's just right sizing, but it's concerning that there's only one glass company, there's only one mapboard company, there's only a metal frame company.
What direct impact does that have on you? Does that mean your prices for those things are all going up?
Not necessarily. It's just, like the glass company has a monopoly. I'm not saying they're taking advantage of anybody, but they're part of a huge company, a multi-billion-dollar company. We're getting to a point where the suppliers are pretty much becoming monopolies. So I don't know, it's just a little concerning. And I don't believe the framing business is going away. I still think, and I have to say, the 5,000 or 6,000 that are left are the better frame shops. And I sell wholesale to them. Many of them, they're doing well. They're healthy. They're serving a purpose out there in the world. People want professional help getting framing done. You can go into a chain store, but it's not the same thing. So I do believe that the people that are in the frame business can continue to do well.
When was the last time someone came to you and said, I'm thinking of opening a frame store?
Well, I had an interesting phone call. There was a chain of frame stores. They had 300 frame stores. Now, if you go on their website, I think they're down to 40 from 300. Someone calls me and he says, Jay, I noticed you're the big guy in the framing industry. I read your articles. I know you speak at the trade shows. I thought I would just ask you this question. I'm thinking of getting the frame business, but I'm confused. I went to 3 of these chains of the franchise. I went into 3 of them, and all 3 told me the same thing. They all said the business isn't making money. It's not doing what I thought, but I'm not sorry I bought the franchise. And I said, oh, I can explain that. It's easy. The ones that figured out they shouldn't have bought it, they're out of business. These people are still in delusion, and they're still holding on, hoping. The joke in framing used to be, why is framing so expensive? And I said, let's stop asking it. The question is, why do so many people do it? And the reason is because it's fabulous. Because if you've ever seen somebody who brought their cherished whatever in and they framed it and they pick it up, it's a beautiful thing. And they hang it on their wall and it hangs there for the rest of their life. So framing still has a use in the world, but it's smaller than it used to be. But I'm looking at the other small retailers that are out there, like in Chicago, there's pretty much no shoe stores left. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's like just a few, like between Nordstrom's and getting it online. The shoe industry is almost wiped out. Men's clothing stores, every small men's clothing store that I grew up with, there's 1 left out of 20.
Do you have any advice for someone who's in the frame business and struggling to hang in?
I would say to them, you'd better be doing better framing, because if they want crummy framing, they can go to the chain stores. Anyone that walks into a custom frame shop has made a conscious decision. They want something professionally done with someone that knows what they're doing, because the chain stores train people for like 3 hours and throw them out on the counter. And framing is not that simple. And I'm confident that the independent frame store owner with well-trained staff are doing a much more professional, better job. And it does make a difference. Not only does it look better, but you're preserving their art. There is a level of expertise that's necessary. So I would say to an independent frame store owner, go to the trade show, improve your skills, find better stuff, be more professional, because there are people that want that.
Have you thought about a bear-resistant frame?
I am now, of course. I was making notes to myself. As soon as we're done here, I'm going to be looking into that.
William, how are you doing? We haven't heard from you in a little while.
Yeah, I've been on summer leave, and that was a good time and very restorative for us, and also good for the company. If you've listened to this for any length of time, my hope is that I am not the lid for our company living and thriving for a long time. So every summer I take time off and have a little less involvement, and was very pleased with how things went while we're gone. We're in the midst of working as hard as we can on integrating new technology into our work so that we can do the part that's human at more thoroughly and automate the rest. So that's a fun new time to learn for me. And I mean, it is the wild, wild west when it comes to AI and what things are going to look like in a service industry. So it's fun to be in a time of learning without it being a time where we're grasping at straws and wondering what to do.
Can you give us a sense of what you're learning and what you're excited about?
I'm taking courses in AI leadership. I'm in a couple of think tanks to try and get past treating ChatGPT like Google on steroids. What does this really mean for a business plan? And what are the things that can be automated? And I think the image that keeps coming to my mind for me right now is that I'm realizing the world of AI, at least generative AI and some predictive AI, is sort of like a feeling you might get if you had 1,000 college interns at your fingertips 24/7. And they could go remove a whole lot of grind hours labor, but you do have to go back and check their work. And so we're starting to think through that strategically. What does that feel like for a client who, how can we anticipate what their concerns are going to be about candidates? How can we learn more about them so we can better fit a candidate to their organization? And I think removing some of the static that comes with sort of intern level work then puts us in a place where it's like, okay, we really are getting paid to think and to provide discernment and human interaction. And those are the things that I'm hoping and banking on being skills that will last and become more and more a commodity and competitive advantage.
So has your market, now I've been in business way longer than you, so 50 years things
I
change.
heard earlier that you're old.
Yes, that's been established. Now, 50 years is a long time. So the question is, you've been in business for what, 20 years?
Not even, 17.
Okay, all right, 17 years. So the question is, has your market changed? Are there less churches than there used to be?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. That's a whole podcast, but the short version is the market looks very, very good for what we do. I think how we deliver it will change over time, and we're just trying to be a little out in front of that.
So it's interesting. So Liz found a new market that's been around for a long time. Your market hasn't changed much, and my market has been changing dramatically, which that's what business is. There are some businesses that are still in the mature stage or declining and growing. It just shows you, depends what your business is. And like I said, if I was the poor guy that owned the lawnmower shop and snowblower, I have to tell you, it was very sad when I stopped by this place I've gone to, and there was a sign on the door, "We've retired after 37 years. Things have changed," and blah, blah, blah. And I was sad. I mean, I knew these guys for years, and I had to remind myself, okay, my business isn't going away like that. But, there are businesses that are just slowly but surely disappearing.
I've said to the kids forever, they've got all these children we've raised. We've got every play school version of kitchen and all the things, and they love the cash register. We're in a cell at the grocery store on the preschool cash register. I'm like, some poor family had a family business for making cash registers, and that's over.
Absolutely. And they were I have one in my showroom. I have my father's original push finger when I was 8 years old. I got it down there, but like a cash register was a big deal. They cost thousands of dollars back in the day, and that was a major investment for a store owner. And you're right. Poof, they're gone.
William, back to AI for a minute. You were talking about using it to do kind of the grind work. I'm curious whether you're also using it to do some of the analytical work. Are you using it to review resumes?
We're getting there. Well, I think if not now, within a year, every resume will be generated by AI. So for the next at least 5 years, I think there'll be things will look too good. People's resumes will be too perfect. So how do I figure out what's a real resume and what's not? How do I get somebody who'll dig behind the tech and the AI to figure out if somebody really is who they say they are?
Is it an arms race? Will you be using AI to combat the AI that the candidates are using?
Hopefully it's conjunction with everything that I'm learning. And I'm not even sophomoric yet on this. I'm very freshman level learning. But everything I'm learning from the smartest people I can find is quit thinking of AI as a replacement. Think of it as a new tool. The people who you learn to wield the tool will be in front. And whether or not we all get replaced is a whole different thing. But for instance, say I got to present candidates to a really tough search committee. And we've had some of the most brilliant people on search committees. I remember one, we had 8 members of the search committee and there were 12 Ivy League degrees, crazy smart people. What if you could say, all right, here's the profile of the church and the pastor they're looking for. Here's the slate of candidates we have. Here are the board members, and I'm going to upload all my notes on each board member, take the role of a skeptic, and tell me which one of these board members is not going to like which one of these candidates, and what can I do to head that frustration off of the pass? So that level of strategy, yes.
You're there, or you're hoping to get there?
We're starting to implement that as a SOP. So we're not there, but that's part of where we're headed is some predictive about what are they going to like or not like about this.
I don't see myself ever going that way. I just don't see it. I feel like resumes are so difficult as it is to, figure out someone. It's a lot of list of credentials. So some of the soft stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. Some people that are really great don't even have degrees.
That's exactly right.
And you're not going to be able to get to them if AI is going to have college degree as a filter.
Yep. We do
but you
that.
can adjust the filter.
Well, this is a fun thing for me to do with what I do because, Liz, I just say, okay, so they have to have a graduate degree. Yeah. Do they have to have an undergraduate degree? Yeah. So, well, all right, dear church board member, you just ruled out Jesus. So he's no longer a candidate. And let's see, Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. And I don't think AI is going to pick based on checkboxes. And I think that's where the human interaction, what we do, I don't know that we'll do as much of the process 5 years from now, but I think the parts we do, we could actually charge more for because it's the things that cannot be automated. Who did we miss that doesn't have a degree? Who did we, think too much of because their resume looks so perfect?
You'd want to know who can walk on water.
Actually, Jay, it's who can walk in water and not track anything on the damn carpet when you get home.
All right. My thanks to Jay Goltz, William Vanderbloemen, Liz Picarazzi. Thanks for sharing. One thing before you go. Everything we do at 21 Hats is created by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs to help us all learn together. If you get something out of listening to these podcast episodes, consider joining the conversation. You can do that by joining the 21 Hats Sounding Board, a Slack channel where you can tap the wisdom of a very smart crowd, or by becoming a founding member and joining our monthly Zoom forum, where you can be part of conversations much like the ones we have on the podcast. You can sign up for both by subscribing to the Morning Report. If you have any questions, you can email me at lauren@21hats.com. And if you get something out of this podcast or out of the Morning Report, please tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell every business owner you know. Your word of mouth, owner to owner, will always be the most effective way to build this community for all of us. Thank you. It means a lot. This episode was produced by another entrepreneur, Jess Stuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Thanks for listening, everyone.